Wow. Hey, guys. Good morning. I'm kind of nervous because I've never presented in such a beautiful place with beautiful faces. So we're going to have a conversation, and really the conversation is going to be based on me trying to relax and being myself. As we get in through the slides, please bear with me because the idea here is for me to really demystify what we do in Africa. Like Marie said, we have a lot of challenges just from a policy perspective, trying to get visas and stuff like that. So when you see me here, I just want to say something, like for real. I stand here because I represent and I stand on the shoulders of other Africans who are not able to come to such spaces. I stand here because such people also, I am an ambassador of these voices in Africa that are trying to communicate that there's a new Africa and we need to have a new voice in different spaces, places, and also audiences. I was taught something, excuse me. I was taught something that communication is a frequency. And having being a frequency, it's important for us to resonate on the same frequency, right? So I will explain what I am and what I do, but at first I do not want to assume that all of you know what extended reality is. I think with all fairness, it's very important for us to first understand, bottom line, what extended reality is, and then I will get to talking about it. Fair enough? Thanks. Silence means consent, so thank you. Okay, cool. Now, please put your egos down because mine is really on the floor right now. I don't have an ego, it doesn't exist. I want us to play a game. It's an educational game, right? And I want to demystify something, but in a playful way. So please engage me, right? Cool. So it's very simple. First, I want to apologize for my Wakandan accent. I will try to speak slow so that you guys, I communicate effectively. Cool? Again, thanks. So, when I say anything, your work is very simple. You say R. So when I say V, you say R. V, R. V. R. When I say A, you say R. A, R. A. R. When I say M, you say R. M, R. M. Oh, clap for yourselves, man. You guys are cool. And I'm also impressed that some of you are nursing a hangover and you can still catch up with me. So thank you so much. So what we just did right now is we demystified what we call the extended reality spectrum. The extended reality spectrum is an umbrella of technologies. When I said A, you said R. That was augmented reality. And augmented reality is simply the superimposition of digital images in the real world. And this superimposition can either use a tablet, a mobile phone, or any device that works as an interface to the real world. So that was the AR. And then you have the VR, which is virtual reality. And as you guys know, virtual reality, probably majority of you know about it. It's a computer-generated environment, could either be computer-generated or live action, that you can interact with this environment using what you call a head-mounted display unit, or a VR headset, or other people call it a VR helmet. So you wear the visor on your face and you can be able to interact with content. That is VR. And then mixed reality is really the baby between VR and AR. So mixed reality is when you wear wearables like your spectacles or your shades, and superimpositions images are happening in the real world. We talk about the future consumer is going to be able to access both digital and physical world in a seamless experience. Now that future is called a phygital future, where you can be able to access the physical and the digital experience. So, having said that, I also want to teach you something else. So, are we on the same page? Thank you, yes. Now, Ubuntu. Like I said, I represent a whole generation of people. And it's very important for me to actually let you know some of the things that have underpinned my particular philosophy and a culture across the communities in Africa. And Ubuntu is a Bantu word that means community. But in this case, it means that I am because we are. And this is the power of Ubuntu. And this is the basic fabric that has allowed us as a community to work throughout an ecosystem that has been relegated in the global value chain. And I'm here to talk about that spirit of Ubuntu, how we've been able to do this. But also, my mom and dad taught me something very important, that when I walk into a room, I have to present who I am. Because I'd like to have a chat with you guys later on, find out who you guys are, etc. But I want to talk about myself right now. So, my name is BrianAfande. I run a company called BlackRhino VR, which is an extended reality agency and technology company based in Nairobi, Kenya. How many of you guys have been to Nairobi? Show of hands. These are the lucky people, by the way. So, Nairobi, of course, I'm being biased. It's a beautiful city, has really cool vibes. But I am a product of the Silicon Savannah in Nairobi. Now, I'll tell you something about myself is, bottom line, I am really a musician. I'm a DJ, and I'm very proud of that. My business partner turned 40 years old, and his wife, I hadn't DJed for about 15 years. And my business partner turned 40 years old, and his wife called me and said, Brian, could you please DJ at Michael's party? And I actually DJed, and I had so much fun. And now I'm trying to convince my CFO and my managing director that I need to balance between running a company and DJing at clubs. So it's not really going well for me right now, but then I'm still trying to convince them. But I also studied something that was, I feel like, sometimes when you want to predict the future, you have to connect the dots in the past. I studied something called philosophy and epistemology, and I combined it with electrical engineering. And when I combined these two, I realized that it's so powerful to be able to call myself a creative technologist. I graduated from a very prestigious university. And I feel like I'm in a prestigious place, and I want to share what that university is. I'm a self-taught individual in extended reality. I graduated from the prestigious University of YouTube Premium. Yes, I taught myself and my team each and everything we know about XR. As you can imagine, there's no XR schools in Kenya or in Africa, and I am very proud of saying that. But I also sit on the board of the World Economic Forum in the future of the Metaverse. And this board has allowed us and individuals within that board to actually try to find out what the future of the Metaverse is and how organizations and governments and individuals can be able to prepare to that future. But I'm not here to talk about my boring self. I'm here to give you statistics. Are you guys ready to be scared? Yes, I like you guys. Okay, cool. Now, we have a unique opportunity happening in Africa right now. And it's very important for all of us to be cognizant to that unique opportunity. And this unique opportunity is happening in a trifecta. There's three things that are happening organically in Africa. Number one, I don't know if you guys know, according to the UN, Statistica, and the World Economic Forum, by 2030, half of the world's youth population between the age of 18 and 30 years old is going to be in Africa. Did you hear that? Half of the world's youth population between 18 and 25 and 30 will be in Africa. That's number one. This can either be a delight to see as a continent, or it could spell out a disaster. We need to be prepared for that. Number two, the mobile phone in Africa is just not a device that we use to take pictures and stuff like that. A mobile phone has been used to bring social progress in our communities. We transfer money using our mobile phones. We do literally everything in life using our mobile phones. So it's a device that has been used to propagate and facilitate social progress in Africa. The third trifecta that's happening in Africa right now is amazing. And it's the undying and undefeated youth resilience. We are tired of politics. We want to do something with our lives. And this spirit is what we call the new African spirit, where we want to forge new perspectives, we want to forge new models that can allow us as young individuals to project what's in our hearts. Now, XR Technologies is basically based on something called growth. When you look at the growth of XR, they say by 2030, the XR industry is going to be worth $100 billion with a compound annual growth rate of around 40 to 46% year on year. This means that this industry is young, nascent, and it's growing. Now, I'm going to talk about the basis of my talk today is going to be based on a community-led initiative driven by Judith Okonkwo from Immersive 3D, Dale Deacon, and Garrett Steele from South Africa. And it was a community-driven survey that went throughout the continent. 22 countries, about 21 and 22 countries within the continent. So my conversation today is actually going to be based on empirical statistics from a perspective of research. Now, when you look at the continent, we have 54 countries. This research was actually done, the respondents were about 21 countries that were responsive to this survey. The survey took place in forms of interviews, phone calls, workshops where people were able to actually communicate. And out of this demographic, something interesting happened. The survey was about mapping out the XR landscape in Africa. It's the first time in the history of Africa that a survey was done to map out the digital footprint of extended reality within the continent. And it's very interesting to see that 80% of the respondents were between the age of 18 and 39 years old. And within that bracket, 80% were male and 20% female. So it's very important that for you to realize that even in Africa, there is a huge disparity of the role of women in technology. And I'm going to explain further through my slides what this role of technology is and how this disparity can be able to be addressed. So just for you guys to know, you're lucky today because I'm going to give you guys a chronology of events of the African XR ecosystem, which primarily started in 2015, with my company being one of the first companies, and all this information is rooted on the African XR report. So with my company being one of the first companies to ever be an official fledged company in 2015, set up in Nairobi. And then in 2016, Electric South and Immersive 3D. I don't know if you guys know about these guys. When I speak about these guys, I get really excited because they are doing amazing work in the ecosystem. I mean, I'm going to show you the kind of work they're doing in the ecosystem in my other slides. In 2017, Oculus Connect happened in the States, and this time around, they opened their doors to an African delegation. And this was a time that Africa came to have a global discussion about the XR industry. And in 2018, the UNICEF Innovation Fund decided to incubate 2 African companies within their UNICEF program. This was huge for an organization like UNICEF to start seeing the potential of Africans within the XR ecosystem in 2016. And in 2019, Microsoft set up something called the African Development Center. This was the first time that Microsoft set up a development center with XR engineers within the continent. And this was in Lagos and Nairobi. And it was amazing to also see commercially that Microsoft started seeing potential of XR within the continent. And in 2020, we had the AR/VR hackathon, where over 10 countries came together in 48 hours to hack through different models to create different use cases of the technology. And this initiative was driven by Immersive 3D, who I'll talk about. And in 2021, there was a first African delegation that went to a global XR event, and this was in Laval in Paris. And it was amazing to see a delegation of young Africans going on a global platform to showcase not just content, not just stuff that they are coming to consume, but showcasing the economical value, the socio-economical value of XR within the continent. And then in 2022, there was, of course, the African XR report. So this is just an image of the African delegation that went to Laval. Man, these guys are legends in my books because they've really paved way and they've gone through XR using frugal technology to make a living. And something happened in 2019 when one of our own, Joel Kachi Benson, actually won the prestigious Golden Lion Award at the Venice International Film Festival for the best VR film. I mean, this is an individual who was actually working in a VR space. And for him, as a black person, as a person of color, to actually win a global award bestowed a lot of confidence in our community back home. We started believing that, yes, we're able to do this. But apart from that, it's very important for all of us to understand. The reason why I'm telling you this is I'm seeking for something different. I want you guys to actually think about something. When you think about growth strategies, think about Africa. If we're talking about majority of the African continent, I want to give you another statistic. Majority of the African continent has only been independent for 60 years. Let that sink in. Majority of the continent has been independent for only 60 years from the colonial power. So if you're an individual working, or if you want to build a business, or if you want to see potential that has growth, Africa has that growth. And when we look at the XR ecosystem, there's certain sectors and use cases that are prominent within this sector. They range from entertainment, health care, tourism, and culture and heritage. And this ecosystem is actually based on such strong use cases. For instance, in South Africa, there's an entertainment company that created a metaverse where musicians can actually perform live in the metaverse, where DJs and musicians can come together and perform to a global audience within the metaverse. But this also comes with significant challenges for us, As you can imagine, we are working with frugal technology, we are working with limited resources. But some of these challenges are also our own doing from a cultural perspective. There's something we call technology anxiety. Man, it's so hard that, believe it or not, when I put the VR headset on my grandma, she actually thought it was white person's voodoo. Let that sink in. She thought it was a white person's voodoo. She couldn't understand that she's wearing this VR headset and she's in an environment that she can't understand. She feels like she's walking. There's some sense of agency, but then also she can't get out of it. It was amazing to see that. But this is what we call technology anxiety. Because the technology is highly foreign, a lot of Africans also fear it. So it's important to have some form of digital literacy within the continent so that we can be able to create an intimate relationship with the technology itself. As you can imagine, infrastructure is one of the key challenges that we have within the continent. Access to hardware, access to software, internet access. I want to also tell you guys something. There is software that we cannot access in Africa just because it's geo-blocked. Can you imagine that? Like there's software for developers like us that we cannot access because it's geo-blocked. So if you're in the room and you're in a policy situation where you can be able to access some of these things, it's important for you to understand that there's a growing generation. Funding, of course, is a big issue. How do you get funding for R&D, for other individuals to start creating and experimenting with the technology? But then we have a big challenge right now, which is called brain drain. And brain drain, essentially, is resources, human capital, leaving the continent in search of other job opportunities. Especially when Mark Zuckerberg came and said that Meta is going to give jobs to 10,000 Europeans. Man, all the talent within the continent is going out. And it's important for individuals like us to make sure that to create an environment that is also sustaining to some of these talented individuals so that they can see potential within the African ecosystem. So I'm not going to focus on all the 22 countries. I'm going to focus on 4 countries just to let you know, understand who are the key players in these countries. And this was 75% of the individuals who, this is 75% of the countries represented within the African XR report. We have Immersive 3D, which is run by a really good friend of mine, Judith Okonkwo. Their work is really based around education in XR. They're doing a lot of work around having hackathons, workshops. Last year, we had the biggest hackathon in Africa, where 17 countries came together. It was sponsored by Meta, where we hacked in 48 hours, where we came up with amazing technology. In 48 hours, some of them are highly scalable, some of them really need R&D, but it was the first time in the continent where 17 countries came together. And that's Judith Okonkwo. She founded a company in 2015. This is just an image from what she does. One of the other companies, Electric South, my personal favorite. I work a lot with Electric South. They were founded in 2016. Their work is really around art and technology and how you can be able to create a platform where young creative technologists can meet and explore this new age technology. So I'm going to play a short video for about a minute just for you to see the action in South Africa.
I've never been in a lab like this. Finally, we have a unique, amazing opportunity to turn things the other way around and really start creating our own realities with our own says, our own beliefs, our own principles, and our own visions.
The days are filled with most incredible presentations. I mean, they've brought advisors from the entire breadth of the VR XR space, from content creators and animators to producers and film festival programmers and people who have been involved in this medium since before it was even a medium. And they help you to not only pick apart your project, but build it up and show you what solutions they've made in their lives and how that could benefit your project.
Yeah, guys, this other video is from one of my favorite companies based in South Africa. They create the most amazing technology. Not only do they build hardware, but they've also created what you call an environment where young kids in cancer wards can actually use the technology as distraction therapy and get their minds out of the hospice walls. This company is called Eden Labs, and this is actually what they did.
First, we thought about you, your brand, your business, your customers and patrons, the people who enjoy your VR experiences, the places they go, and the memories you want to leave them with. Then, we designed a product and platform that fixed everything in the way of simplicity. Eden Snacker features a patented grip that makes immersive content snackable. Without the feeling of being strapped into a VR headset, it's easier for people to dive in and out, which leads to higher engagement. There's also no need to learn any complicated VR controls. When your customer holds the headset to their face, they're good to go.
It's so funny that innovation in Africa is really driven by what we call utilitarianism. It's the daily utility that allows us to innovate around the technology itself. One of the primary reasons why they created the Eden Snacker was because, you know, my sisters from back home have nappy hair. So it's really hard for them to wear a VR headset and all their frizzy hair is going all around. So they decided to create a snacker based on that, where the women could actually maintain the nappy hair, but still be able to actually snack and have a VR experience without messing their hair. And I'm very proud to say that this particular device has been scaled all over the world based on utilitarianism in Africa that is tapping into our global value chain. Another company that I felt I should talk about is Honor Stories, which are based in Dar es Salaam. And these guys started out, we incubated these guys in my company, but after a couple of years, they really went out and started doing amazing stuff. This is one of the projects that they did with the Vodacom in Tanzania.
We've embedded code into photos and combined the photography with videography. But it's not just the technology that is on display here. Actually, it's 6 stories of impact from all around Tanzania that Vodacom has had on the lives of many different Tanzanians.
Guzo Technologies, based in Addis Ababa. Guzotech is one of the most brilliant companies out of Addis Ababa. I mean, not only are they developing their own software, they are also using VR and volumetric capture to recreate great battles that happened in Ethiopia. For instance, the Great Battle of Adwa. These are individuals who are engineers, individuals who actually believe in the medium themselves from a fundamental perspective of design and build. So this is just some of the action that they've been able to go through.
To actually sustain our sovereignty, and we have to give that to the generation to come. They should know where they're coming from.
La Metaverse now actually.
Guys, I hope I'm not boring by the, I had a task to create within 40 minutes to make you understand the landscape. But also, the good thing about my presentation is really founded on empirical evidence. And these are the key players within the industry. And I'm not putting my company there just because it's me who's presenting here. I hope you understand this. My story is different, guys. And I feel like when I was speaking to Maria about my presentation, she also made me understand that I need to talk about our story because our story is also quite unique. But my story doesn't start out easy. It starts out from an experience that I went through in my life that changed the whole perspective and my whole internal beliefs. One day when I was a brand manager of a shoe brand called Converse, I was walking inside my office. It was a Saturday morning, and then this happened. 20 minutes later, terrorists walked in through the shopping mall. They killed 400 people. I was stuck there for 6 hours. The terrorist was next to me. I was hiding behind a wall unit. He couldn't see me. He couldn't hear me. I could hear him shrug. I could hear him shoot people. I could count the shells. I could do everything. In about 15 minutes, I had an intimate encounter with a terrorist. And then he left. And I was stuck there for 6 hours. And I want to tell you something. I don't want you to subscribe to coincidence. Everything in this life happens for a reason. And when I survived this ordeal, I promised myself one thing, that I will start living a meaningful life. Because I had taken a lot of things for granted. A lot of things for granted. So the first thing I did was to resign from my job. The second thing I did was to get married. The third thing I did was to start a company, in that order. And this was in a span of 2 years. Because I was already dead. I sat in an ambulance, and half of the ambulance was full of blood, and I did not have a single scratch on me. And I started having a relationship with my Maker. It doesn't matter if you believe in God or you believe in the Spirit or whatever it is that you believe in. But I personally believe in God because I will tell you something, you'll think I'm a crazy person, but I was surrounded by angels when I was inside there. I was so warm. And by the time I was rescued by the Special Anti-Terrorism Unit, they thought I was shot because my leg was so numb, I couldn't run. Imagine running through fire exchange, gunshots, bombs, and walking out of that place. So my test should be your testimony. My message should be a message here that do not subscribe to coincidence. The greatest gift that we have in this life, I think, is today. The power of being within, the power of being alive is the greatest gift. So I took that gift and I transformed it into something that won awards all over the world within a period of 8 years. And one of the awards, of course, is a prestigious Lumiere Award. And I'm so proud to have a team that actually allows us to work. These are what we call XR troopers. I work with these individuals on a daily. 3 of these guys, when I was creating this slide, I did have pictures for 3 other guys. But yeah, we are 17 in the company. And these are what we call XR troopers. But wait for it, serendipity. On September 21st, 2013, the terrorist attack happened in Kenya. On September 21st, there is a BlackRhino that was rescued from poachers. And the BlackRhino is called Apollo. So we adopted this rhino. When you come to the company, the reason is because I survived the terrorist attack on September 21st, and we adopted Apollo. So when you come to Kenya, you're going to have an intimate relationship with our last born in the company called Apollo. Listen, he doesn't really fit into the company gear, but then we're trying to find a way on how we can be able to brand Apollo also. So these are just some of the images from the work that we do all over the world. We're showcasing 2 of our films, so when you have time, you can be able to watch 2 of our experiences. This is just some work that we do with artists. I'm going to play the first slug and then get into the next slide.
We started State of the Art in 2019 together with BlackRhino. It's a 3-month training program for creatives to upskill and build capacity. So we are teaching creatives, visual creatives, how to use different tools in VR and AR, and then we exhibit it within an exhibition, within a public showcase.
Creative economy in Africa is really growing. And the idea of digital technology is at the epicenter of this growth. And according to the Voices of Creatives survey that was done by GIZ, it's very important for us to have spaces where individuals can access this digital technology itself. And we've decided as an organization to map out the future of XR within the continent based on the 3 trifectas I mentioned: the mobile phone being a driver of economy, the resilient spirit of Africans, and a growing ecosystem. So we asked ourselves a question, and the question was actually based on a challenge in Africa right now. The skills that are acquired in institutions of higher learning are not the skills that are required in the market. There is a huge mismatch. And for us, I see a lot of individuals within the economy, within the creative industry. They go through different courses, waste a lot of time in university. By the time you come out, these skills are obsolete. So this mismatch is really something that is a huge challenge in Africa. So we asked ourselves a fundamental question. And the question was based on, how do we bridge the gap between African creativity and immersive technology to empower a whole generation? Our answer and our response was, unlocking the untapped potential of African creativity through augmented reality. Because of one thing only: augmented reality leverages on the computing power of the mobile phone. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to showcase this for the first time in a public environment. I want to showcase a project that was funded by the EU under the SEP EU fund. It's called Media. We received a grant of 180,000 euros to build an augmented reality platform that is being launched in November. And the idea here is Media actually, by the way, is the world's first no-code, user-friendly cloud editor and publishing platform, where you can go without understanding any code, rapidly build and publish augmented reality content and publish it through a mobile phone. But the reason it's a world's first platform that has a very unique financial inclusive model that allows content creators, brands, and a community to exist in a digital ecosystem. So our platform ecosystem consists of two different aspects. There's a cloud editor, and then there's a mobile application for both Android and iOS. The media ecosystem positioning is really unique because it's positioned across technology, arts and culture, and education, and touches across each and every subsector within that. I'll talk about the target audience for the positioning. The revenue share model, as explained, is a unique model because consumers, brands, and a community have one thing that they share, which is value. They all want to share value. So our platform allows content creators to build augmented reality content for brands or for individuals, let's say Coca-Cola, and then Coca-Cola get into a revenue share model. Every time you get your phone or you're scanning magazines or books, I'll show you some of the powerful use cases. But it's a world's first platform that is able to actually get into that revenue share model. Our target audience is based on individuals within the culture and creative economy, because a lot of people within the CCI in Africa really are self-taught as well. So you have one of the first audiences are people who are actually self-employed, and they are people who are self-employed or freelancing, and they want to leverage on technology. They want to find out how they can reach other audiences. It's important for this particular audience to also be able to harness and understand digital art skills. And then we, of course, have young professionals who are employed, but also they live in an urban, a peri-urban area. They want to address different audiences, but also they want to leverage on the technology itself. These are individuals who understand user interface, UX, UI design. These are individuals who are graphic designers, etc. And of course, impact is huge for us. So we are targeting people around impact, who are driven by impact, who want to make a change in the world by leveraging on augmented reality technology. So I'm just going to show you an interface. This is a visualization of the interface of how the platform itself looks like. Of course, we had to put a Rhino there, but this is actually where the cloud editor is. Guys, the technology is amazing. We built it with a Dutch company. And the reason why we built it with the Dutch company, my engineers actually had to travel to the Netherlands and have a conversation in terms of how we can be able to bridge the knowledge gap between the global north and the global south. And my engineers also sat there with these guys in the Netherlands, and we co-created a platform together. So this is just the editor and how it works. This is the mobile user interface. Like I mentioned, we'll launch it next month. All of you guys are actually welcome in Nairobi if you want to take a flight and enjoy some safari and also come for the launch. These are some of the powerful use cases that I get excited when I talk about. For instance, I don't know if you guys know, but augmented reality is the only technology that exists to date that can actually add a digital layer on legacy systems that existed many years ago. What I mean is augmented reality can add a digital layer on books that existed many years ago, and you don't have to reprint the books. It can add a digital layer to magazines. It can add a digital layer to pretty much any physical thing that existed. And one of the use cases for us is how we can enrich education within the public and private schools in Kenya. Another use case, of course, is outdoor advertising, where you can be able to pull out your phone and superimpositions of, like I mentioned, the future consumer is what we call a phygital consumer, who can be able to access both digital and physical attributes in one seamless experience. Of course, billboards, how you can be able to look at outdoor advertising. And the good thing about this platform is it's really a melting pot and a collaborative platform across other interdisciplinary skill sets that you have within the CCI. Whether or not you're a graphic designer, videographer, it doesn't matter. You can be able to rapidly build and publish AR content. This is just a short video of the platform itself. So as you can see, you can go down on the platform. You can sign in. You can put in your credentials. Yep, and you can be able to build your projects. So this is a 360 viewfinder, 360 3D viewfinder. You can import pictures, you can import 3D models, you can create your own models on the platform itself. This stuff really gets me. I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a techie sometimes, but I see this kind of stuff and I see that really the continent is growing. But I also want to say something, that I want to bring a special message. And the special message is that when you're thinking about growth in Africa, when you're thinking about growth in anything, look at the horizons of Africa. We are ready, we are eager to collaborate, whether or not it's north and south, whether or not it's horizontally between south to south, it doesn't matter. But one thing you should know is that do not subscribe to coincidence. Everything in this world happens for a reason. And the reason why I'm here today is simply to make you understand that there is a bigger ecosystem that is probably outside your comfort zone. For those people who've been able to actually take a trip to the Zamunda, what we call, it's important for you to understand that there is a growing generation of individuals who believe in immersive technology within the culture and creative industry. And this industry is growing in leaps and bounds. So I want to welcome you all to an extended reality journey based in Africa, where we are thriving together in a spirit of Ubuntu. I am because we are. And in Swahili, I'm going to teach you something in Swahili. It's your equivalent of bonjour. I think so, yes. No, merci beaucoup. It's your equivalent for merci beaucoup, which means asante sana in my language. So first thing, thank you so much for those of you who are nursing hangovers, for those of you who woke up early in the morning for this. I hope I wasn't boring as hell, but I wanted to really communicate some stuff with you guys. So thank you so much. Asante sana.